Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Tony, and in this tutorial we're going to make this very simple lower thirds animation. So if you're new to DaVinci Resolve or the Fusion page, then this is a good place to start to learn the basics. Okay, so here we are in DaVinci Resolve. So let's set things up. Go up here to the media pool, and then we'll right click here and say New Fusion Composition. And here I'll leave the duration at 5 seconds. I'll leave the frame rate at 25, and I'll just rename this simple lower thirds. Okay, and then click on create, and then drag this down to our timeline. And with our cursor over the clip, click on the Fusion tab. Okay, so here we are now in Fusion, and we have a media out node, and we can start creating. So let's create this vertical line first here on the left of the screen. So we'll start by adding a background. So here on this toolbar, you can drag in different things. So these are like the most common tools that you might need. You can also find other tools by doing Shift and Space, and then that brings up this tool selection box here, so you can type in what you want. But we'll just use it here, so we'll drag in a background, connect this background up to our media out, okay? And let's rename things as we go along as well. So let's call this vertical line, and okay this, and we'll change the color. So we want it to be blue. So to do that, with our background selected, come over here to the inspector and click on the color here, and there are a few tabs across the top here, so you can you're probably familiar with these from other applications. So you've got particular colors you can select, or you can be more specific. I'm going to use the hex color here because I know what color I want. So here I'm going to type in 214882 and okay that, and it gives me this blue color. At the moment, it's the whole screen, but of course I want a vertical line here on the left. So to do that, I need to mask this vertical line. So with the vertical line selected, come up here, and if we hover over these, we can see we've got a rectangle, an ellipse, polygon, and a B-spline. Okay, so these are our masks. We're going to use a rectangle, so click on that. And this will then give us the default mask that it's added to this background. So again, let's rename. So I'll call this vertical line mask, and okay that. Oh, can't spell mask. And now we need to change the size of this and the position as well. So to do that, we come over here again to the inspector, and we're going to adjust our center X here to move it to the left. We're also going to adjust our width and our height. Okay, so I know which values I want in here, so I'm going to type in the values I want. So I want this to be 0.05. I want my width to be 0.024, and I want my height to be 0.35. So that gives us the vertical line, and we've achieved this by just adding a mask to a background and then changing the parameters of the mask. Okay, so that's our vertical line, and now let's animate this vertical line. So at the moment it's fully on, it's fully visible. So we'll add a keyframe in the position we want it for it to be fully visible, and then we will add a keyframe where we want it to not be visible at all. So here, let's go to frame 30, and then come over here to our height, and we're going to animate our height value. So add a keyframe by clicking on this little dot, and then it will go orange, and that means you've added a keyframe. Now, if we go back to the beginning, we can then change this height value to nothing, and that has now animated. So it's automatically added another keyframe here. So now if we play this back, we can see it is animating on. Okay, so that's fine, but we want to make this animation look a bit more interesting because right now it's very linear. So to do that, we'll go to the spline editor. So with our vertical line here, we go to spline, and this is why we rename stuff, because sometimes you'll have a long list of things in here, and of course it can get confusing. Select our vertical line, and we will then see the keyframes. And if you want this to fit, then you can come up here to these two arrows where it says zoom to fit. Click on that, and you'll see both those keyframes that we just created. So first of all, we'll smooth these keyframes. So we'll do Command A or Control A on a PC, and then hit S. That will smooth these. And then what I want to do is just change the curve. So let's just drag over this one, and I'm going to take this handle here over to this side a bit, and then let's maybe move this one a little bit as well. So let's look at what we have. So now you'll see it's a bit more interesting. It sort of pushes itself on the screen in like a more of a non-linear way. Okay, so we finished with the spline editor. Let's close that. And now we can start to create our boxes. Okay, so again, we'll add a background. And we'll rename this background. This is going to be our blue box, so we'll call it blue box. And then we'll merge that in. And we merge it in just by taking the output of this, dropping it onto the output here, and it will create a merge. And again, we've got here a black as default, so we can come over here again to our inspector, and we can change our color. So click here, and again, I'm going to add this hex value here. So I'm going to add 285993, and it's given us another blue. It's just a different shade of blue here. Okay, and again, we need a mask. So with our blue box selected, come here and click on the rectangle mask. That then gives us this default mask again. Okay, and then again, I'm going to rename. So we'll call this blue box mask. Okay. And again, we now need to change the parameters of our mask and our animation. But actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm only going to change the corners of this box within the mask, because I want to change the pivot point in a minute. And to do that, I need to use a transform node. So we can move this up, and after this blue box, we can go here and add transform. And then I will call this blue box animation. So that gives us our animation that we can use this to do our animation. But as I said, in this blue box mask, I'm going to change the corners. So over here in the inspector, we have a corner radius slider. So by moving this, we can change our corners. So I just want to change the corners slightly just to give it a little bit of an edge here, a bit of a rounded edge. That's fine. And actually, I'm going to go back to the vertical line, and let's zoom in. I'm going to do the same here as well. There we go, just give it a little bit of a curve. Okay, good. And let's just zoom out again. So let's click on our blue box animation, and now we will change the size of this box, and we will move the pivot point as well. Okay, so to move our pivot point, we again come to the inspector, and there's a pivot X and a pivot Y. So we want to adjust this pivot X value. So basically, we're going to reduce it until we have this kind of green line here on the edge of, it's actually a crosshair, but it's hard to see on this. If I zoom in, maybe you can see. No, you can't really see because it's not the best color that they've chosen here. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to input 0.25, and that will then put this on the edge. So now when we adjust our animation, it will start from the left. So it won't come out of the middle. It'll come out of the left where we've moved the pivot point to. Okay, so to change the size of this box, we need to first come up here again to the inspector. and we will uncheck use size and aspect. And the reason we do this is because if we now adjust the size, it does it uniformly, and we don't want that. So uncheck use size and aspect. We can now adjust the X and Y size independently of each other. Okay, so I'm going to input some values here because I know which what sizes I want here for these. So I'm going to make the X size 1.35. I'm going to make the Y size here 0.45. And then I'm going to change my center values as well. So I'll make center X 0.3, and I'll make center Y 0.525. Okay, so now we have this box starting on the left and then coming out from the left. So if we just adjust now our X size, you can see it appears from the left where we put the pivot point. Okay, so now we can animate this, and we do that by animating the X value. First of all, let's go to the place where we want it to be fully visible again. So we'll go to frame 60, and at frame 60, we want it to be like this. So we'll add a keyframe for X size, and then we'll go to where we want it to start. So I'm going to go to frame 20, and here we'll change this X size to nothing. Okay, so now if we go back and play, we have our first left box here, the vertical box appears, and then our new box appears from that. Okay, now you might also notice that our second box is currently in front of our first box, and we want it to be behind. So to do that, come down and click on the merge, and then hold down Command or Alt and T, and that will flip between the inputs, the background and the foreground input. So then you can put it behind. Okay, so let's now change again the animation, make it look a bit more interesting. So we'll do the same thing that we did before. So we'll go up here to the spline editor, and now you'll see there are two things here. So the more things you have here, obviously the more confusing it can get, and that's why I like to name things. So we only want this blue box animation, so we can untick vertical line, and then we will just see our blue box animation. So again, we'll click on these two arrows, and that will give us both keyframes so we can see them together. And again, I will Command or Control A, and then hit S to smooth. And then I will highlight this one and bring it over here. And then I'll highlight this one and bring this over here a bit as well. And this is up to you how far you want to do this, really. And let's go back and have a look. Okay, so now we've got the first one appears, and then the second one sort of pushes on as well. All right, so that's fine. And we'll close the spline editor. And now we can go on and create the second box here. So to do that, we'll just duplicate the first group. So drag over these and do Control or Command C, and then Control or Command V, and that will then give us this. And then we need to merge these in again. So take the output from this animation node and connect it here, and that will create a new merge. Okay, let's rename things. This is going to be our orange box, so I'll call this orange box animation. Then we'll just go through and rename these as well. And this will help us later when we go into the spline editor, when we need to select a particular thing. We'll call this orange box mask as well. Okay, so we've renamed those. Now we will avoid any confusion. And we have two boxes, one on top of the other. Now we want to change that. We want to move one down, and we want to change its color as well. Let's do the color first. Click on the orange box and come up here and click in the color. And here again, I'm going to add a hex value, FF B 800. And that will give us this orange color. And again, I want this to go behind. So I come down here and click on merge and then use Command T or Alt T on Windows, and it will go behind. So now you can see we have our vertical line, then we have our blue box, and then under that we have our orange box. And then we'll change our orange box transform here, go up and change the parameters. So we want to adjust our Y center point. Yeah, so we want to bring it down here. So I'm going to just add in here 0.47, and then we can see it. And then I want to change the X size. But because this X size is animated, I want to first go on to the frame, the last frame we had animated. And we'll know that by when we get there, we get this dot, and that shows us that there's a keyframe there. So then I will reduce this, and that then gives us our two boxes. And if we play them at the moment, you basically have both boxes coming out together. So again, we want it to look a bit different, so we're going to use the spline editor to adjust the keyframes on the orange box. So I'm basically just going to move these keyframes maybe forward, I don't know, 5 frames or something like that. Okay, so we're going to the spline editor, and we want to select here our orange box, and I've just noticed I've put 2 E's, but never mind. And we're going to move these frames forward by 5, or these keyframes forward by 5 frames. So we want to go here where we see this one. So we're on frame 60, and we want to go to frame 65. So we'll just grab that and bring it over. Okay, and I made sure first that I'd highlighted both, yeah, using this Command or Control A, and then I moved them so they moved together. Okay, so then we can go back and look at that. And now the first one comes on, and then the second one comes on afterwards, slightly behind. And it's only 5 frames, but it just makes it a bit more interesting. Okay, close the spline editor. So now what we need to do is add some text. Okay, so we will add a text node, and to do that we go again up here to our toolbar, drag in a text node, and we're going to write in here our text. So I'm going to write here Tony FX YouTube. Okay, and then I'm going to use the font here. I quite like Babasnu. So you can, if you haven't got this one, then maybe you can look online and find it. So it's this one, Babasnu. Maybe that's how you say it. And then I will merge this one in. So again, take the output, drop it on the merge. Now we can see it. So we want to make it bigger. Okay, so select the text, adjust the size here, and then let's adjust the position, kind of roughly put it where we want it, maybe a little bit bigger. And we can also adjust here if you want to, the tracking, if you want to make it kind of more kind of spread out, but I think I'll just leave it as it is. Okay, and when I've got it where I think it's okay, then we need to decide where it's going to be fully visible and then where it's going to be like not visible. Okay, so we'll go to frame 70, and at frame 70 I want it to look like this. All right, so we need to animate here. In fact, let's add a transform. I think that's going to be easier as well here, because we can do this animation in the layout tab here, but I prefer using transform. So after text, add a transform, and then we'll call this text animation. Okay, and then we will adjust our keyframes here. So we're on frame 70, and we are adjusting here our center X, yeah, because it's going to go on the screen from the left. So we're going to adjust our center X. So add a keyframe here on frame 70. That is now telling us that here it will be completely visible. Then I'm going to go back to frame like 25, and here I want it to be completely off the screen. So we will just adjust this center X value until it kind of goes the other side of this line here. And now when we play it back, we get it like this. And again, we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to go and smooth these animation points. So go to the spline editor, uncheck orange box, and just have text animation selected. And then click here again to get them to fit. Command A and S to smooth. And then we will adjust each individual point again here. We'll move this one over here somewhere. And then we'll move this one over here. And now we go back. We get the whole thing. Now, of course, we can see a problem here. And let's just close our spline editor. And our problem here is that it goes off the screen and we can still see it over here, and we don't want that. So we need to mask our transform. So with our transform text animation selected, click on this rectangular mask, and we will make this mask a bit wider, something like this, and put it about here. And now when you do this, it goes off the screen. So we now have set where we want the text to appear, and we're saying appear within this box, basically. Okay, good. So I think that's it. We're finished. So we can now go back to the edit page, and then we'll just make some final adjustments there. Okay, so back on the edit page, and let's do a few final things. So obviously I need to move my title and put it down here where it should be as a lower thirds. I'm also going to add a video clip so we can see what it looks like over the top of some footage. So let's move it up to begin with. And we'll go to the media pool, and I'm going to drag in this clip here, video.mov, and I'll just close the media pool. And this is basically me just talking. I'm going to drop the audio. We don't want to hear what I'm saying, really. And this is me, basically. I'm in an outdoor gym in Kiev, in Ukraine. Very interesting outdoor gym. And so let's just play this. And we'll get our timing first of all. So maybe let's cut it about there. So it comes on and holds, and then it will go off again. Let's put it in the correct place then. So with our clip selected, go up to the inspector, and we will adjust our zoom here and our position, X and Y. So let's bring it down somewhere like this. Okay, maybe we can make it slightly bigger. And you can play around with this depending on what you want. So let's look at that. Okay, I think that looks okay. So what we want to do now is to reverse it. And so to do that, first of all, I will right click on this, make it into a compound clip. And then I will copy it. So to do that, I will hold down Alt and I will drag to the right, and that will make a copy. I will then right click on the copy, go to change clip speed and click on reverse speed. So in this video, you've learned how to add backgrounds, add masks to those backgrounds, change the corner radius, and also animate a simple lower thirds. Okay, that's it. I hope this tutorial was useful for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.